10. It's thrilling. It's the most thrilling thing you could have. And I was getting pretty good at trading.
Those bomb fragments.
With bomb, well, before that, I traded. In those days, people smoked in a packet of cigarettes. They came with a playing card, with a spade, playing cards, or with all kinds of things on these cards. But when I should say, in a way, this is how I got into journalism. At 9 or 10 years old, I got a paper route. And I had 45 papers, 50 papers to deliver in the morning between 6 and 8 o'clock. So it's a 2 hours walk around the neighborhood. Many of the people in my neighborhood were Jewish, which turned out to be great for me.
You were telling me about the fire. You would light their fire and make.
Yes, that's right.
Now let me just step back 1 second. You talked about collecting the bomb fragments.
Yes.
When you were in Vietnam, did you ever pick up any shrapnel and bring that back?
No, not in Vietnam, but in the war.
Because you used to say the tail fin was the big one, right?
Yeah. Well, there's several things. Let me explain what it was. I had my paper route. I left for my paper route at 6 in the morning, so I'm an early riser to this day, and I get 40 papers of that order. Sunday papers were even heavier, but for the 40 papers. Mm-hmm. As I went around the houses, about half the neighborhood was Jewish folks. On Fridays, they're not allowed to light a fire.
So you would do that and get some money for it?
They'd open the door, I'd go in, they'd have everything there, matches, everything for me. The wood splintered. I did nothing other than light it. For that, I got something like the equivalent today of like $25.
You mentioned to me earlier, you said, before we started, you said, what was the slogan you said? I haven't worked.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
if I had a slogan or a saying, I'd say, this is the greatest business, enterprise, profession you can possibly get into, because you will find that, hopefully you'll find that, like me, you'll never work a day in your life. It's all, in many ways, there's a comparison with teaching. It's arduous, it's stressful, things happen, but when you go home at night, you can say, I taught somebody, and later on you can say, I saw that young person grow up to be a man or a woman, and enjoy a perfectly good life. And
in news, what would you say? How would you explain that you completed something, you told stories?
Yeah, well, news and television journalism is, everybody has their own take on whether they're waterwork people or doctors or, candlestick makers. But for journalists, there is nothing better than to get paid for having fun.
Yeah. What's been your favorite time of your life?
Now?
Because?
Well, here I am, a very young 81, but I'm still writing, and I still have great friends like you and others. Yeah, now is the best time of my life.
And if I'd asked you that 20 years ago, would you have given me the same answer?
I would have given the same answer 40 years ago.
Always. Today is the best day.
Yeah, today is the best day.
Because you can make new adventures. You don't travel so much anymore?
No, it's, well, when you own a house, you'll find that you're paying down the mortgage. Fortunately, in my case, it's halfway paid. And I live in Rosedale, so they're very expensive homes.
Do you miss traveling at all, or do you enjoy the...
I do miss traveling.
Yeah.
But this winter, I definitely am going to go back to Cuba.
What did you do yesterday, though? You sat where? Do you remember?
No.
Sitting in your garden? Didn't you tell me that yesterday?
Oh, yeah.
And how was that?
My daughter is a very, very wonderful gardener.
Yeah.
And she has a green thumb, and everything she touches just turns into marvelous vegetables. I know sometime earlier in the year, she noticed that the price of lettuce had gone up, so that a bunch of lettuce cost $4. So she said, instead of flowers this year, Dad, I'm going to grow vegetables. The fact is now we have a garden full of vegetables, carrots, zucchini, rhubarb, maybe not rhubarb, but you know, every kind of lettuce galore.
Fresh, ready to go.
Yeah.
So, in terms of, would you rather sit on an airplane for 11 hours to fly to Lebanon, or sit in your back garden and?
Oh, there's no question that sitting in the garden.
So, while you like being in different countries,
Right.
flying wasn't.
Flying's only a way to get there. It's always painful. Very often it's painful. It's never fun. There were periods in my life as a journalist, the union arrangement was that when you traveled at home, between the union and others in America, the United States, you could opt for who would get a first class.
One person would get first class.
Yeah, well, one person would get. Anybody could say, I'll go first class. I want to get first class. You had to have a certain number of points or whatever, you know.
And then when you were traveling internationally, would you fly first class, or would they? The union decided, since they traveled far more, the cameraman and the grips and all the other technical staff, they do far more traveling at home than abroad. So when it came to, they chose that they do it at home. But I chose the other way around. I chose when I went abroad. So, because I'd always go first class to Indonesia or to Vietnam. It was absolutely wonderful. So that was different. So you could either be first class at home or first class overseas.
That's right.
The longer flights, which makes more sense, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to sit somewhere for a long time. We had a few first class trips to Britain, eh? Which is very nice. Now, just to finish up for today, because we got about another 5 minutes on the tape. You talk about airplane flights. You said they weren't generally fun.
Right.
But tell me about one airplane flight that changed your life. Do you remember that one when you were reading a book on Moscow or Lenin? You're flying Pan Am?
Yeah. Well, of course, the one thing that changed my life was my wife, who was a Pan Am stewardess.
Right, and you met her on where?
I met her on a flight to Moscow.
Tell me, no, weren't you flying from Moscow?
I was flying from Moscow,
New York.
Yeah. Yes, correct.
And tell me what you were reading. What was the book you were reading? Do you remember?
I was reading
Trotsky or something?
No, I was reading Lenin, one of Lenin's books.
Okay.
And of course, later on, I went to write a book. I wrote a book
and she noticed that you were reading that and asked you about it.
Yeah.
And then tell me what you said to her about meeting. Didn't you say, if you want to meet, we'll meet on the steps of the Plaza Hotel?
Oh, yeah, that's right. And thank you for reminding me, yeah. Yeah, so I think every young person, and I was relatively young, I was in my 30s then, yes, 30s certainly, I have certain foibles. I was crazy about the credit cards. A lot of people say, well, they've always been around, but credit cards were new at that period of my life. And so I would, instead of dining at the corner diner, I'd dine at the Plaza. I met a lot of great movie stars.
At the Oak Room?
At the Oak Room.
Did they get to know you there?
Very well. Mr. Smith, here's your table.
Same table every time?
Yeah, every time. And every night, I would, during the week, I would dine by myself. And
you must have spent a small fortune.
Yeah, and I had to pay a small fortune later on.
How many, who would you see there? Frank Sinatra, people like that?
Well, yeah, not Frank Sinatra, but a lot of stars, all of whom name I've forgotten. But
you wouldn't say hello to them, would you?
Yeah, or they'd say hello to me because they were in New York for a week or something. They were in a play or something.
And they'd be in there every night.
Yeah, and say hello and so on.
So then you said to your, what was your second wife's name?
About Kirsten. My second wife, Maria Elena.
And so she was the flight attendant.
Yeah.
And you said to her, if you want to meet me on the steps of the Park Plaza.
That's right.
And was she there?
Yeah, she was.
Did you wait, or were you there first, or was she there
first.
I was first, and
So you
no,
were-
I think it was the other way around. Mary Elaine is a person of incredible punctuality.
So you went there, and were you hoping to see her?
Yes, I was certainly hoping to see her. Very often you can talk to a stewardess are invited by a lot of people to have a date, you know, and many of them. In fact, when I used to go to her apartment, Gary, there was usually a cluster of gentlemen waiting for the three other stewardesses that lived in the apartment.
With her.
Yeah,
And that was where it started, on the steps of the Park Plaza.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, why don't we stop it there, because we're out of, I think the tape is about to end. And then next week we'll pick up part 4 of the Desmond years. Thanks for talking to us, Desmond.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, just let me fade to black. Hold the shot for 1 second. I'm going to fade it out, Desmond. Smile at the camera.
Yeah.
And we're going to fade.
It's hard without my hearing aid, you know.